Random House Audio presents The Amber Room by Steve Berry. Read for you by Scott Brick. Mauthausen Concentration Camp, Austria. April 10th, 1945. The prisoners called him Ears because he was the only Russian in Hut 8 who understood German. Nobody ever used his given name, Karl Borja. Uho, Ears, had been his label from the first day he entered the camp over a year ago. It was a tag he regarded with pride, a responsibility he took to heart. "What do you hear?" one of the prisoners whispered to him through the dark. He was huddled close to the window, pressed against the frigid pane, his exhales faint as gossamer in the dry, sullen air. "Do they want more amusement?" another prisoner asked. 2 nights ago the guards came for a Russian in Hut 8. He was an infantryman from Rostov near the Black Sea, relatively new to the camp. His screams were heard all night, ending only after a burst of staccato gunfire. His bloodied body hung by the main gate the next morning for all to see. He glanced quickly away from the pane. "Quiet. The wind makes it difficult to hear." The lice-ridden bunks were 3-tiered, each prisoner allocated less than 1 square meter of space. 100 pairs of sunken eyes stared back at him. All the men respected his command. None stirred, their fear long ago absorbed into the horror of Mauthausen. He suddenly turned from the window. "They're coming." An instant later the hut's door was flung open. The frozen night poured in behind Sergeant Humer, the attendant for prisoners Hut 8. "Achtung!" Klaus Humer was Schutzstaffel, SS. 2 more armed SS stood behind him. All the guards in Mauthausen were SS. "Volunteers are required," Humer said. You, and you." Borja was the last selected. He wondered what was happening. Few prisoners died at night. The death chamber remained idle, the time used to flush the gas and wash the tiles for the next day's slaughter. The guards tended to stay in their barracks, huddled around iron stoves, kept warm by firewood prisoners died cutting. Likewise, the doctors and their attendants slept, readying themselves for another day of experiments in which inmates were used indiscriminately as lab animals. Another guard brushed past with 4 wool overcoats draped across his outstretched arms. "Coats," muttered one of the Russians. No prisoner wore a coat. A filthy burlap shirt and tattered pants, more rags than clothing, were issued on arrival. At death they were stripped off to be reissued, stinking and unwashed to the next arrival. The guard tossed the coats on the floor. Humer pointed. "Mantel anziehen!" Borja reached down for one of the green bundles. "The sergeant says to put them on," he explained in Russian. The other 3 followed his lead. The wool chafed his skin but felt good. It had been a long time since he was last even remotely warm. "Outside," Humer said. The 3 Russians looked at Borja and he motioned toward the door. They all walked into the night. Humer led the file across the ice and snow toward the main grounds, a frigid wind howling between rows of low wooden huts. 80,000 people were crammed into the surrounding buildings, more than lived in Borja's entire home province in Belarus. At the main grounds, Humer turned left and marched into an open expanse. He stopped before 4 tall stakes planted in the earth. 2 armed guards stood nearby. Arc lights burned overhead and fogged the bitterly dry air. "Wait here," Humer said. The sergeant pounded up a short set of stairs and entered the building housing the camp's jail. A moment later, 4 naked men were led outside. Their blonde heads were not shaved like the rest of the Russians, Poles, and Jews who constituted the vast majority of the camp's prisoners. No weak muscles or slow movements either. These men were stocky. Soldiers. Germans. He'd seen their look before. Granite faces, no emotion. The four walked straight and defiant, arms at their sides, none evidencing the unbearable cold their milky skin must have been experiencing. Humor motioned to the stakes. Over there. The four naked Germans marched where directed. Humor approached and tossed 4 coils of rope in the snow. Tie them to the stakes. Borya's 3 companions looked at him. He bent down and retrieved all 4 coils, handing them to the other 3 and telling them what to do. They each approached a naked German, the men standing at attention before the rough aspen logs. He draped the rough hemp around his man's chest and strapped the body to the wood. Tight! Humor yelled. He knotted a loop and pulled the coarse fiber hard across the German's bare chest. The man never winced. Humor looked away at the other 3. He took the opportunity to whisper in German, "What did you do?" No reply. He pulled the rope tight. "They don't even do this to us." "It is an honor to defy your captor," the German whispered. Yes, Borya thought. It was. Humor turned back. Borya knotted the last loop. Over there, Humor ordered. Borya and the other 3 Russians trudged across fresh snow out of the way. To keep the cold at bay, he stuffed his hands into his armpits and shifted from foot to foot. The coat felt wonderful. It was the first warmth he'd known since being brought to the camp. It was then that his identity had been completely stripped away, replaced by a number, 10901, tattooed onto his right forearm. Humor seemed to be waiting for something. Borya glanced to his left. More arc lights illuminated the parade ground all the way to the main gate. He watched as the main gate swung open and a solitary figure entered the camp. The man wore a greatcoat to his knees. Light trousers extended out the bottom to tan jackboots. A light-colored officer's hat covered his head. Outsized thighs hitched bow-legged in a determined gait, the man's portly belly leading the way. The lights revealed a sharp nose and clear eyes, the features not unpleasant, and instantly recognizable. Last commander of the Richthofen Squadron, commander of the German Air Force, speaker of the German Parliament, Prime Minister of Prussia, President of the Prussian State Council, Reichmaster of Forestry and Game, Chairman of the Reich Defense Council, Reichsmarshal of the Greater German Reich. The Führer's chosen successor, Hermann Göring. Gentlemen, I trust you are comfortable, Göring said in a calm voice to the 4 bound prisoners. No one replied. Göring positioned himself directly before the 4 naked men. I ask each of you again. Anything to say? Only the wind replied. Göring inched close to one of the shivering Germans, the one Borya had bound to the stake. Matthias, surely you don't want to die this way. You're a soldier, a loyal servant of the Führer. The Führer has nothing to do with this, the German stammered, his body shivering in violent quakes. But everything we do is for his greater glory. Which is why I choose to die. Göring shrugged. He motioned to Humor. The sergeant signaled 2 guards who toted a large barrel toward the bound men. Another guard approached with...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?